All right, y'all. Wrestling. Favorite Paul Heyman moment. Champ, you go first.
Ooh,
Paulie.
yes, sir.
Paulie, man. Hey, look, you can hold, people might dispute this, but you can hold Paulie dangerously. First hand responsible for Stone Cold. You can hold him personally responsible for Stone Cold. And a lot of other superstars, but Stone Cold in particular. I will say, I'm going to go old school. I'm not going to do something recently. When he was the manager of the Dangerous Alliance, when he was managing Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, Larry Zbyszko, and Stunning Steve Austin back at WCW, that was one of the most underrated stables you're ever going to, and I loved it. And he saw something in Stone Cold early in his career. I mean, WCW really, they fumbled on Stone Cold plenty of times. But Paul, I have to say when he was managing the Dangerous Alliance, because keep in mind the group that he was trying to replace. Remember, Ric Flair had went up to the WWE. He invented that group in order to replace the Four Horsemen. So with him during that time in the Dangerous Alliance and managing that group of talent, with Rick Rude heading off that roster, I would say that was one of his best moments. Not to mention, man, I got to throw this in there. One Night Stand. The first ever One Night Stand.
You stole my champ. Damn.
Remember what he said to JBL?
Yeah.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, that was to see One Night Stand, not to mention what he said to Edge. I got two words for you. Matt Hardy. So
remember what he said to JBL? The reason why he's able to be the WWE champion
is because
you were WWE champion for you were the only reason you were WWE champion for a year is because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesday.
Man, Paulie's one of the best minds in sports entertainment and wrestling, man. People don't understand when SmackDown was in the mid 2000s and in its heyday, guess who the booker was and the writer was? Paulie. So when SmackDown was at its apex, when they had the brand split, Paul Heyman was the reason why SmackDown overtook Raw and took it from the B-list show that it was when the brand split into the A-list show, to the point where you want to watch SmackDown probably more than you want to watch Raw. I mean, put over a bunch of guys, put over Eddie Guerrero, put over JBL, the thing was he did all of that without sacrificing, the status of The Undertaker and a lot of those guys. I mean, that was something special. SmackDown under the Paul Heyman regime, that was something special to behold, man. So I got to say, the Dangerous Alliance, I got to say One Night Stand, and I got to say the entire Ruthless Aggression SmackDown when it was under the regime of Paul Heyman. Shout out to Paul Heyman, man, one of the greatest minds ever in sports entertainment, man. Absolutely. One of the greatest.
I'm going to go. Champ, I send you that video. Him and Vince McMahon. BR, do you remember that promo he did on Vince McMahon?
The SmackDown before Survivor Series. If you oh my God, if you're gonna give Paul Heyman the ability to go out and air your grievances, oh my gosh, PSP.
He killed Vince McMahon in that promo. Oh my God. And that was a lot of personal. It wasn't just scripted. That was some personal stuff right there. Paul Heyman just let out on that promo. He was not exaggerating.
He was not. The Attitude Era did start at ECW.
And but Paul Heyman, brilliant mind, genius. Hey, we know another guy who's known for saying a lot of stuff. Jim Cornette, or as my man Champ calls him, colorful.
Colorful.
No matter what they may have their differences, but one thing that Jim Cornette will never call Paul Heyman is incompetent. They may have their differences, but Jim Cornette sure knows Paul Heyman knows what he's doing. He knows what the hell he's doing. So I got to go with that promo, and also Champ, not just Stone Cold Steve Austin. Think of Mick Foley too. He helped out Mick Foley, the great Mick Foley, in ECW as well, especially playing heel. He said something about Mick Foley that resonates with me. And this is why one of the reasons why I consider Mick Foley the most underrated wrestler. Mick was always offended by people's expectations of him because they were too low. As humble as Mick was, he knew how great he was. And Mick knew he could work with anybody on that card. Doesn't matter if he's bigger, smaller, whatever. Anybody on that card. I think a lot of that has to do with Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman just got the most out of the people in ECW. And also, too, Champ, when he was the general manager in 2004. That was really good days with Paul Heyman there running the show. And, of course, him advocating for, of course, Brock Lesnar. I mean, that was exciting as well. Paul Heyman, man. Shout out to the great Paul Heyman. But BRF.
To this day, I still recognize Paul Heyman as the greatest manager in the history of the business. He's the greatest manager for me in the history of the business.
Over Bobby
hey, I get, hey, you got to look at the amount. Even though Paul Heyman didn't manage that many people, you have to look at the success he's had with everybody, with the people he managed. Like you look at Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's a 10-time. I mean, Brock Lesnar's like a 10-time world champion, and the reigns that Brock Lesnar had as a world champion under Paul Heyman, and then of course Roman Reigns, 1,306 days as champion. I mean that's not going to be touched anytime soon. But the reason why I say Paul Heyman's the greatest manager of all time is his mic work and his ability to sell what you're about to buy. As far as the fight his guy's about to be in, nobody could sell a fight like Paul Heyman. Nobody could sell a fight like him. So I'm looking at his greatest promos, like Champ, you said it, One Night Stand 05. And it wasn't just the line he used against JBL for Triple H, the Triple H line. You remember how he cooked Eric Bischoff at the beginning of that promo? It's not ECW with his tail between his legs going to a WCW pay-per-view. You are in our house, bitch. I'm like, Eric Bischoff, just don't say a word the rest of the night. You're done. You're cooked. Put the fries in the bag. You're finished. That's a wrap. I mean, that was cooked. That was a cook job to the highest order. I mean, you don't see Eric Bischoff showing that many emotions. He got Eric Bischoff to flip him off. That's when you know what he said struck a chord. Oh, let's see. Of course,
Remember when he interrupted the girlfriend? Remember when there was somebody that was proposing in the fans?
And yeah, I remember that. That was like, yeah, it was basically completely. I can't remember what he said, but it was like completely off script. But it was so funny. Oh my god, yeah, I remember that one. There's the he's got so many great promos. There's an underrated one was the one he cut before Brock Lesnar's the second Hell in a Cell match he had with the Undertaker, where he like it was. I mean, it's just like I said, nobody could sell a fight like him. I'm trying to pick one that really like something that really stands out. because he had so many good ones. So many good ones. I think my favorite Paul Heyman promo that really truly got me hyped for a match, even though the match didn't fully live up to expectations. It was the promo he cut before the WrestleMania 38 match with Brock, where he was basically you got to be at your most violent, you got to be at your most dominating, you got to be at your most conquering. You going against Brock Lesnar, and the way he sold that promo, that's one of those promos where it's like, man, I wasn't about to buy this I wasn't about to buy this pay-per-view before you talk, but the minute you finish talking, oh yeah, I got to buy this. Paul Heyman was just the king at selling pay-per-views. Like, he just, and Champ was talking about that SmackDown ruthless aggression era. He came up with the idea of the SmackDown Six. The six guys he basically built that show around for that ruthless aggression era. I mean, regardless of how you feel about him, I feel like I'm comfortable enough to say his name. Let's face it. Chris Benoit was part of the SmackDown Six. Kurt Angle was part of the SmackDown Six. You had Edge. You had Rey Mysterio. You had Eddie and Chavo Guerrero. Those were the SmackDown Six. You could put them six in any type of match. It was going to be great. The ratings were going to be good, and they were going to kick Raw's butt. It's pretty much how that regime and that era of SmackDown was during the time. Paul Heyman. You know what? His Hall of Fame speech.
Keep it clean.
If y'all had, trust me, I'm not going to repeat anything from that Hall of Fame speech. I'm just going to say, if y'all haven't seen his Hall of Fame speech, y'all need to find a way to watch that, because that like that's Paul Heyman. That Hall of Fame speech is Paul Heyman. He doesn't care about whether you want to cancel him or not. He just doesn't care. And he let it go. He had Randy Orton cracking up. He had Triple H cracking up. Everybody was like, "Man, I can't believe this dude just said this on the air. I can't believe he just said this on the air." Well, boy, that Hall of Fame speech is Paul Heyman in a nutshell. And I think that's why we've grown to appreciate that man, and we've grown to love him, regardless of whether he's a face manager or a heel manager. It don't matter. It's just
He's
Paul Heyman in a
unapologetic.
nutshell. Exactly. That's the perfect way to describe Paul Heyman. He is unapologetic in who he is and what he stands for, and you're not going to change it, because if you cancel him today, he's going to come back next week and he's going to do worse than he did when he got canceled at the beginning. That's just who he is, and that's why we respect him. Honestly, there's really too many promos for me to pick out one. I guess if I gotta pick one, because of how funny it was and how much it stand out, it would probably be his One Night Stand '05 promo. It's probably my favorite one of all time, just because of the angles that we were playing off of. You had the Edge and Matt Hardy saga, and then the whole Raw SmackDown crusade going in to invade ECW. That ECW One Night Stand '05 is just Paul Heyman just doing what he does best. Nobody could cook people like he can in the promo, and just. The man's a legend. What more can you say?
Go ahead, champ. I know you're about to say something.
I can't believe you got him over Bobby Heenan.
Yes, I do. I got him over Bobby Heenan. Yes, I do. I think he's the greatest manager ever. Here's the thing, though. But here's the thing, though. The reason why I put Paul. This is why I put Paul. For me, they're two different styles of managers. They're two different styles. Because Bobby Heenan, he was just like the the scheming, get under your skin, he was more of the prototypical manager, as opposed to Paul Heyman being more of like an advocate, a promoter, and stuff like that. He wouldn't necessarily get involved in them like that. With me, I'll just look at his promos and his ability to sell the fights, and just the way his facial expressions, the way he could sell moments. he brought you in emotionally to fights more than I feel like any other manager could, and that includes Bobby Heenan. I think Paul Heyman's the GOAT. I just personally think Paul Heyman's the GOAT manager. That's just my opinion. Because even though that's just how I feel.
Okay, fair enough.